Look, I didn't know a lot about this longest ballot thing when it was happening. I don't think it happened very much, but it happened some years ago in some other riding. But they've targeted me in 2 different ridings now. And the reality is I don't have a problem with anyone who wants to run for office, even if they're not known or not wealthy. They should be able to put their name on the ballot if they truly want to run. But that's not what these people are doing. They're adding their names even though they're not campaigning. They don't expect to win. They just want to inundate the ballot to confuse the situation, make it harder for people to vote, people with vision problems, the elderly, others who have difficulty are going to have a harder time voting, and it shouldn't be allowed. The simple solution is just say that if you want to be a candidate, you have to get several hundred signatures of your own. You can't just use the same 100 or 200 signatures for all the candidates, and every candidate should have their own financial agent. If you did that, this interest group would not be able to pull off this stunt and this scam, and so that's why we're proposing to change the law to make sure that this longest ballot stunt never happens again.
I just wanted to ask how you're feeling heading into the by-election and introducing the Canadian Sovereignty Act today. How often are you encountering Alberta separatism sentiment through the campaign, and what have those conversations been like?
Well, I'm loving the campaign. I'm having a lot of fun, actually. I love the people of Battle River Crowfoot. They are the people who feed power and protect our country, feed through the great ranchers and farmers, power through the incredible oil and gas industry, most of all the Hardisty tank farm, which moves $90 billion of energy products. That's more than the GDP of many countries, and this is a town of about 600 people. And of course, it protects our country with the people, the great men and women who serve at CFB Wainwright. So I'm having a lot of fun. I'm meeting a lot of people who are very angry about the way that the federal government has abused and mistreated Alberta. And what they're saying is the era of pay up and shut up has got to come to an end. Alberta deserves a better deal within Canada. And one of the ways we make that happen, one of the ways we unite our country, is to produce our resources. The oil and gas workers who are suffering, living in very tough conditions right now because there's just not enough work, despite the global oil boom, all they want is to get a job where they can go and make the whole country richer. So, I met a guy the other day. He's an oil and gas worker. He was doing very well up until about 10 years ago. Now he's got to split a mobile home with a friend. He's in his 40s or 50s, and he can't afford his own place. And it's because there's just not enough work. All of this is the direct result of the federal government banning oil and gas production through C-69, C-48, the energy cap, the industrial carbon tax, and we could go on and on and on. If you unlock the power of the energy sector to make all Canadians richer, I can tell you Albertans will be more than happy to continue to contribute to this country, and it would be the greatest thing we could do to unite all Canadians. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Rick Bell, Post Media.
Hi, Rick.
Hi. Welcome back. Just this week, the Smith government has said the clock is ticking. A few weeks ago, Premier Smith said her expectation was to hear some indication by around September 15th of what the federal government plans to do with regards to the so-called 9 bad laws, emissions cap, etc. 2 days ago, the Environment Minister, Rebecca Schultz, said he doesn't have to wait for Parliament to remove the to not put in the emissions cap. He could announce it at a podium today. That hasn't happened. So my question is essentially, I know you're going to have to peer into the mind of Mark Carney here, but what's going on? Why do you believe they are not coming out and giving an indication of what might happen? Why aren't they standing up and saying we're looking at not bringing in the emissions cap, or we're looking at doing something about the No More Pipelines law? Why do you think, what's going on there? Why do you think the federal government is not dealing at all in any way with this issue?
Well, first of all, let's talk about Mark Carney and then the Liberal Party. Mark Carney for the last 10 years, was a net zero, keep it in the ground, green fanatic. He said that he wanted to keep at least half of our oil in the ground. And he believed he's testified against the Northern Gateway Pipeline. He supported all of the carbon taxes. He's publicly spoken out in favor of the electric vehicle mandate to ban your gas and diesel-powered cars. Now, he's tried to present himself as some big change because he looks and sounds different than Justin Trudeau, but he has supported all of the same policies. And what he's doing right now is ragging the puck and trying to drag people along into believing that he will one day do something. But he hasn't done anything other than hold a lot of meetings and make a lot of bold statements. The C5 is better than nothing, but it won't do anything for the energy sector here unless you also get rid of the nasty 9 laws that Danielle Smith is asking us to end. Like I said earlier, you cannot build an oil pipeline, even if the pipeline itself were approved, if the government is capping the production to prevent oil from going into the pipe, or if the government continues to ban shipping the oil when it comes out of the pipe. So it's not enough to just pass one law that gives himself the power to cherry-pick projects. What you actually have to do is get rid of the nasty 9 anti-development laws, and that's what the Canadian Sovereignty Act will do. It will legalize fast development of major projects in hydroelectricity, oil, gas, nuclear, and more, so that we can become self-sufficient and sovereign. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Good morning, Josh McLean, CBC News. If you don't mind responding in English and French, please.
Yes, sir.
Should Canada continue to remove some counter tariffs on American products, and how would you get a deal that didn't include tariffs?
Well, before I talk about our position, I just remind you that Mark Carney has broken his promise on this. He said that he would do dollar-for-dollar tariffs during the election while he was simultaneously lifting those tariffs. And he has made concession after concession to President Trump. He's been bending over backwards for the president and so far has gotten nothing in return. We think that the counter tariff should be narrowly targeted on the things that will have the most impact on the Americans and the least impact on Canadians. We do this by targeting things that we don't need, can make ourselves, or can buy elsewhere. That will allow us a minimal opportunity cost in seeking the products from other places, while increasing the political pressure on the Americans to get a deal that will allow Canada to have unfettered access to the American market.
Thanks for taking my question, Keane with Juno News. I'd like to ask about immigration.
Yes.
Nigel Farage in the United Kingdom has been quite popular recently. He might even be Prime Minister if an election was held today, with his plan to deport illegal migrants across the Channel. Donald Trump, same thing. He just launched a father-son recruitment campaign for ICE. It seems like the entire Western world, including the Liberals, have realized that out-of-control immigration is a problem, but Canada's the only country without a solution to fix it. And you don't have sovereignty without control of the borders, so I'm wondering what your plan is to fix it and get illegal migrants out of this country.
Thank you. Well, for anyone who has been deemed inadmissible needs to leave, and they need to be deported. Anyone who commits a crime while they're in Canada, they need to be immediately detained, and when their detention is complete, they need to be deported from the country. We need to track down the roughly 600 criminals that the Liberals have lost track of. That means using all our security agencies to find out where they are, to locate them, arrest them, put them on planes, get them out of Canada. We need to make it clear that anyone who commits a hate crime or an act of violence against an identifiable group should be, that is not a citizen and not a permanent resident, needs to be deported from this country. We need to get rid of the incentives for people to come here that are not real refugees. So we need a review of all the benefits that go to people who come as asylum claimants, to make sure they're not getting more benefits than Canadian taxpayers get. And those that arrive last should be their cases should be treated first, so that they know that they'll be leaving quickly. That will get the message back to the country of origin that if you come to Canada and you're not a real refugee, your case will be heard in a few weeks and you'll be back in your own country. That would, right now, there's the opposite incentive. People who are not real refugees come into Canada and they say, well, even if I'm rejected, I'll have 7 or 8 years of appeal, during which time they get all kinds of benefits. If we was very clear that the benefits wouldn't be there, that they would be sent back within a couple of weeks, they wouldn't come in the first place. We need to secure our borders to stop the crossings. And more broadly on immigration, we need to bring way down the numbers of international students, of temporary foreign workers, that are flooding our markets with low-wage labor. The big corporations love it because they can drive down wages for Canadian youth who are facing unprecedented unemployment. The temporary foreign worker program was not meant to drive down wages. It was meant to fill jobs that Canadians could not or would not do, particularly in agriculture. Now it's just become a full-purpose thing that Starbucks or anyone else can use to drive wages down. If they're having a hard time getting Canadian youth working, what they need to do is raise wages. So we need to cut back on the temporary foreign worker program. And finally, the overall number needs to go down. Over the next several years, we actually need more people leaving than coming. That's net negative migration. And so that's what I've said. We've got these millions of people whose visas are going to come up. When their visas run out, they're not eligible to stay. They need to be told to leave. And if they don't leave, then obviously they need to be deported. And that will allow us our housing, health care, and jobs to catch up with the number of people in our country. Thank you.